Hi, my name is Yanadira Méndez Magaña and I work in the Road to College and Career Department at Uplift Education. Thank you so much for joining us as we go through the FAFSA and how to complete it. But first, I think the perfect place to start is, what is the FAFSA? Well, it's a free application for federal student aid, and we have many scholars who are eligible to complete it. Any scholar from any income tax bracket can complete it. Any scholar who is a U.S. citizen, a U.S. national, a U.S. permanent resident, as well as a few others with appropriate visas. If you are a scholar at risk at homelessness, you could also apply for the FAFSA. Just talk to your Road to College and Career counselor so that they can best support you with what documentation you'll need to complete this. Now, before we tackle the actual FAFSA document, we will need to make sure you have all the appropriate materials to prepare you for the FAFSA. So you will need to have your social security number or alien registration number. You will need to have income tax returns and W-2s, as well as any records of money earned for both the scholar and the parent if the scholar worked. Make sure to bring bank statements or investments, untaxed income, and finally, and most importantly, your FSA ID login. And if you don't have an FSA ID login, no worries, I'm about to show you where you can create one and how to access that. So now we're going to work on the FAFSA. So let's head over to studentaid.gov. I love this website because there are so many different resources on here, and you can go and click through everything and you're going to find something new every time that's going to help you understand the process. And it's available in both English and Spanish right up at the top. And so where you're going to go is to create an account to create an FSA ID if you have not created one yet, and you'll get redirected to this page right here. And so an FSA ID serves as your secure login and username and password so that you can sign and submit the FAFSA when you are done and ready to basically send it off. And so those who have social security numbers need to create an FSA ID. Both the parent and the scholar would need to create it. So once you create that, you're going to log right in. Another way to access the FAFSA is go to the top on Apply for Aid, complete the FAFSA form, and it'll send you right over here. So if you're new to the FAFSA process or you're returning as a login, you created an FSA ID, so now you're ready to log in. It'll send you to this page, and you're going to click I am the student. And so you're going to submit your FSA ID information right here, and it'll then send you to this disclaimer page, and you're going to click accept. And then you're going to get right here where you will select the correct FAFSA form, which is the 2021-2022. So although right now it is 2020, this FAFSA is not going to take effect until the year 2021. So that's why we're selecting that one right there. So then you're going to create a save key, which means that if you get locked out or knocked out for whatever reason, you basically put this save key in and it will save your information and bring you back to the page where you were knocked out of. So it's a simple save key, 1, 2, 3, 4 works, and you'll get to this page right here. And you can use that to answer any major questions that you may have before starting the FAFSA. When you look at the very top, you can see that there are different sections: student demographics, school selection. So when you complete them, it'll give you a check mark. When you're working on them or they're in progress, it'll give you that little time over by student financial information. And so we're going to just go ahead and get started right here under student demographics by putting in some information here. This is Maria Gomez. We're going to go ahead and put her information, and then we're going to click next and make sure that this email that you put in here, scholars, is an email that you check because you're going to get some important information based on your student aid report, which I will show you at the end of this video. And we live on Uplift Street. Here, make sure that it is accurate address information. And so this will confirm that you have lived in Texas for the last 5 years. You do have various options to select if you're a U.S. citizen or if you're an eligible non-citizen. If you are not a citizen or an eligible person, then you will be watching the TASFA video. So although you are not able to complete the FAFSA, you can complete the TASFA. For purposes of this video, we're going to click U.S. citizen. And here it'll ask you for some information on what high school diploma you'll have when you start your fall semester in 2021. This one asks what degree certificate you'll be pursuing. We're going to go with first bachelor's degree. And you can see all the options here, but we're going to go ahead with first bachelor's degree. And then, will you have your first bachelor's degree before you begin 2021? So since it'll be your first, then you're going to click no. What will your college grade level be when you begin the 2021-2022 school year? Never attended college. This will be your first year, so that's what we're going to click on. Are you interested in being considered for work study? We're going to click yes. So a little information about what work study is. It basically provides a part-time or full-time job for those that are enrolled in undergrad, and it is available for scholars with financial need depending on that university's funding level. And so it is considered a federal financial aid award, and you will find that in your award letters when you start receiving them in the spring. So right now we just want to say yes, we are very interested in the opportunity to work, and then we're going to click next. Then it'll ask you for your assigned sex at birth, and so if you are a male, you're going to click yes, and then it'll ask you if you're registered with the selective service system. And so maybe you're not, maybe you are. If you have a driver's license, then you definitely are. You had to register when you got that. But if you're not, now is the time to do so. And you have to register or you will not receive federal aid. What is a selective service? So basically, if there's a draft, it means that you have the possibility of being drafted. And there is no way of avoiding this if you are a male. And if you are a scholar who is assigned male at birth and is in the process of transitioning, if your birth documents say that you are male, you do have to register for selective service. Since Maria is a female, we're going to go back, and Maria is not interested in registering with the selective service. Females do have the option to do that. And then if you have a driver's license and want to put that information there, that is optional. You don't have to. So are you a foster youth, or were you at any time in the foster care system? So if you click yes, please talk to your college counselor so that they can help support you with the proper documentation. And then it asks you for the highest school completed by both of your parents. Now we completed the student demographics. Yay! So now we're on to the school selection. So it'll first ask you what high school you're a part of. So right now I selected Uplift Williams Prep, and the way you can confirm that you selected the right school is just click that little icon right there, and all of the schools that fit in that category will pop up. So in just a second you will see, there we go. Uplift Williams is the first school, but you can see Hampton, Luna, Peak are there. And so you'll click the select button and click next. And now you will add your colleges or universities. You can see once you add them, they'll pop up right here, but we'll go ahead and add a school or university so you can see how to do that. It'll ask if you know the college's federal school code. You can click no, which means that you're going to want to be as accurate as possible here while you're putting in that information. And we're going to look for the University of Texas at Arlington. And the more accurate you are, the easier it is to find the school. And what you'll do is you'll click on the little checkbox when you find the right school, and you'll click next or add more schools depending on if you have more schools, but for the sake of this video we'll just have 2. And you're going to want to make sure to click that little icon to see what are some statistics. You can see what in-state, out-of-state tuition looks like, as well as graduation and transfer rates. Just some fun information, and if you want to keep that to yourself, you can also print that page. And you're going to want to make sure that you're going to click on campus that is your plan, you have the option to click off campus or with parent, but trust me, you want to click on campus. It's easier to take away aid in the spring if you decide to live with your parents or you decide to live off campus than it is to change your mind in the spring and want to add aid so that you can afford to live on campus. We are on a roll because we just finished the school selection and now we're moving on to the dependency status, and it'll ask you some information about yourself. So what is your marital status? You have all of these options, but we're going to go with single on this. And then it'll ask if you have any children or if you have any dependents. So this will make sure that basically you are a dependent of that you are going to report your parents, and if you click yes for any of those, your financial aid process will look just a little bit different. Another thing here to make sure that you are dependent, it asks if you are currently in active duty or served in the armed forces, if you were a ward of the state anytime after the age of 13 or in foster care. Since none of those apply to Maria, we're going to click none of the above. And then we'll go here. It'll ask if you were at risk of being homeless. If you're unsure, it's totally okay. Just ask your college counselor. They'll help you sort out through some of these details. Sometimes they can be a little fuzzy, and that's okay. This information right here is just asking if you will be providing the information for your parents or if you will not. Many scholars sometimes are in a situation where their parents are refusing to provide information for their FAFSA, and if this is the case, again, please talk to your college counselor so they can help you sort through all of the details. But the dependency information is very, very important to sort through. So who is considered a dependent according to FAFSA? So we went through a bit of a checklist there, but if you are under the age of 24, unmarried, if you are a grad student, a veteran, an orphan, someone with, if you don't have children, if you're not an emancipated minor, if you're not at risk of being homeless, you are considered a dependent, meaning that you will have to provide your parents' information. Now, I know that this is sometimes confusing because it's sometimes not as simple as, yes, I live with mom and dad. So this is an incredible resource right here. It's available on the student aid website where it walks you through a very kind of easy going chart. So are your parents married to each other? Yes, you will report both of them on the FAFSA. No. Are they living together? Yes, you will report both of their information on the FAFSA. So it goes through many scenarios, and it's very, very important to put the correct information because at the end of your financial aid process, you will be asked to verify all of the information that you provided is correct. And this process is called verification, which we will go through at the end of this segment. So right now, we are in the moment where are we going to provide information or are we not going to provide information? So we're going to go ahead and click yes to we are providing information. And so then it'll start asking information about the parents. Now we are in the parent demographic portion. So here are some options. And so for Maria, we're going to go with married. It'll ask you for the date that her parents were married. Just going to put that there. It'll ask for social security numbers, but parents do not need to have social security numbers to complete the parent portion of the FAFSA. So for this sake, I'm just putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you are an undocumented or have an ITIN number, you're going to want to put all zeros in that space. It will ask you for your parents' date of birth, as well as your parents' email address. And parents, it is very, very, very important that you put an email address that you will use. And this is something that you can use the same email address that you use to create the FSA ID. Or if you didn't create an FSA ID because you were not able to, then you can put an email address that you check frequently because you will get sent some really good information. So for parent number 2, just put in their information. And for this scenario, we're going to put all zeros there. And so any parent can be parent 1 or parent 2. It does not need to be parent 1 is dad and parent 2 is mom, or vice versa. However, it makes the most sense while you're filling out this information. So then click next. And it'll verify that they have lived in the state of Texas like you have. And now here is where it can get a little bit tricky or confusing when we're talking about the household size. And basically what FAFSA wants to do is calculate the number of people that your parents financially support. And we want to make sure that we do this as accurately as possible. So we'll go through some scenarios, but some foundation to get you on the right track is add 1 member to your household for each child or member of your household who will receive more than half of their financial support from the parent or parents listed on the FAFSA, with the exception of foster children. And that is because your parents receive some compensation by the state. And so we'll practice this with a few scenarios. So scenario number 1, Maria lives with both of her parents and has 2 younger siblings living in the same household. So let's head back to the FAFSA and put those numbers in so you can see how that is reflected. So 2 parents, because we're providing information for 2, then Maria. And this one is asking how many more dependents do they have. So that is 2. And you could see down there that it reflects that there are 5 people in the household. And because Maria is the only one starting college in the fall, that will be 1. So this is a pretty straightforward scenario. So let's say that you have other children in college. So in scenario 2, Maria lives with both of her parents and younger brother, but she also has an older brother who is starting their sophomore year of college. Her older brother lives on campus at his university most of the year, but comes home during the summers. So in this case, there are 2 people as well, because there are still 5 of them, and there are 2 now in college. So although her older brother is in college, he is still considered a dependent because his parents financially support him. And so now we will go to the 3rd scenario. Maria lives with both of her grandparents and her younger brother, who her parents financially support. She also has an older brother that lives on campus at his university most of the year, but comes home for the summers. So we're going to go back to the FAFSA, and as we said in the scenario, the family still has 2 dependents, 1 in college, 1 at home, and a set of grandparents. So now you can see that the 7 reflects the household size, and they do have 2 still in college in this scenario. So that is what we're going to go with for the rest of this FAFSA, but I just want to reiterate that although this is very likely not the circumstances of your family, us as the Road to College and Career Department are here to support you and help you, and so please reach out if you have any questions. We know that this is a very confusing process. So, all right, so we're going to head over to the next portion of the FAFSA, and it is the parent financial information. All right, so if you ever needed a break, this is the break to take, because the financial information can sometimes be a doozy. So for this FAFSA, you will be using the 2019 tax return, and so you can see what type of tax return it is by looking at the very top. In this case, we're going to do the IRS 1040, and there are also various ways that your parents could have filled out. So in this case, we're going to do married filed joint return for Maria, but you can also find this at the top of the tax return under the IRS 1040 label. And this IRS data retrieval tool will pop up, and basically it says what it does what it says, link to the IRS. And if your parents have an FSA ID, they can use this tool, and it helps you because it auto-populates once you link the IRS to the FAFSA. It auto-populates a lot of the financial information. So just put in the credentials there, and if the IRS data retrieval tool isn't working, then don't worry, it has nothing to do with what you're doing. It's just being visited by a lot of people right now because of October 1st and FAFSA opening up. So in this case for Maria, what we're going to do, since we don't have parent FSA IDs that I can put in, since this is just a mock-up of walking through the FAFSA, we're just going to put in random numbers here in the parent information. Do you see that little circle with the question mark I just clicked? that will be your best friend for filling out the information throughout the FAFSA. It basically takes you to a page that will walk you through how to calculate these numbers based on whatever way that your parents filed their tax return or whatever forms they filed. So you can see here if your parents filed separate IRS Form 1040 tax returns, how to calculate that. And you can even see a mock-up of the actual 1040 form and what numbers they're asking you to pull from. It's honestly so remarkable. I love this tool, and so always use that little bubble as your friend, the little bubble question mark, and if you didn't get a chance to see it, we'll go back to the website here and you see it right there above the income estimator. So right now we're going to just throw in some random numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and hit next. For these cases as well, if you're ever confused, again, there's that little blue bubble with a question mark right next to the question, but you can see it'll tell you 1040 line 1 plus schedule 1 lines 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you click on that bubble, it will take you to this website that will help you. It's also through the student aid, so it is official through that studentaid.gov. So again, it goes through all of the ways that you could potentially find the information. See, I told you would probably need a break. So for the purposes of this, we'll again put in some random numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 1, 2, 3, 4. No, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 0. Yeah, feels about right. Then we hit here for the next question. And like I said, again, go to that little bubble. It'll tell you exactly where on the tax return you can find that number. And here we're just going to put in some random numbers. Hopefully walking through the FAFSA will let you know exactly what's coming your way. And here it's going to ask you a bunch of questions, like if you received special combat pay or if you had special grants or scholarships that you had, but it will tell you exactly where to pull that information from. So if we look on the third line, education credits, IRS Form 1040 Schedule 3, line 3. So if you don't have a Schedule 3, then that is a 0. So it's actually very common for all of those to be zeros for our scholars. If you have child support, if any of your parents receive child support, make sure you have that documentation so that you can properly do the math for that part. The co-op education program likely won't impact, as well as taxable earnings. And again, this asks for more information on if you receive child support or housing or food allowances, if you were a part of the military or the clergy. Again, please don't be surprised if most of these are zeros. That happens a lot for our scholars. So now the next part asks for your assets and if they exceed 7,100. So we're just going to click yes so that you can see the question. So tell us the balance of your cash, savings, and checking accounts. What is your net worth of your investments, not including your home? What is the net worth of your business if you have more than 100 full-time employees? So you can click yes, you can click no. I always tell my families to click yes because it doesn't hurt to answer those questions, even if they are all zeros. And once we finish the parent information and the finances, now we're going to go to the scholars information. So we are now going to answer some questions for the scholars. So some scholars have worked and they have completed taxes for the year, the 2019 year. And if you have, you're going to put the information that you put here. And if you are doing the FAFSA because you do have an FSA ID, I would suggest linking to the IRS if you did file a tax return. That'll be an easy way to do that. But Maria is not going to file. It'll ask you how much did you earn from working wages, salaries, tips in 2019. Maria didn't work, so we're going to put 0 there. Maria doesn't have children, so 0. She is not in a college currently, and she does not have work studies, so we're going to do 0s straight down. Again, no child, no allowances. Typically, this is 0s for most scholars all the way down. And then it'll ask, what's your current balance of your checking accounts? It'll ask, do you have real estate? Do you have your own homes? It'll also ask, do you have your own business with more than 100 employees? And Maria doesn't, so we're going to go with 0s. So right now, this is very, very important. So if your parents do not have social security numbers and you put 0s, it is typical for this error message to come up. It'll say, hey, are you sure that these 0s are supposed to be here? And just keep clicking that check for errors until that message goes away. And don't be alarmed. It is totally normal. And so we're going to go ahead and process that, and you'll get to your FAFSA summary. We're almost there. So make sure that you go through this so many times, 10 times, 11, 12 times, because you will be shocked at even myself, who has gone through multiple hundreds and hundreds of FAFSAs. I have caught myself making mistakes when I go through this information with scholars at the end. And it's normal. You go through so many documents and it can be very confusing, but it is worth it to triple check your information. And of course, it breaks it down in segments that you filed. So then you get to the bottom of this summary page, and you even have the chance to print it if you like paper copies. So, and we're so close. We're on the signing and submitting portion, and we're going to provide student signature, click agree. This basically just says, I have provided the most accurate information to the best of my abilities. And you're going to use your FSA ID and FSA ID password to sign this FAFSA. For the sake of this example FAFSA, we're not actually going to sign, but I'm going to go through the parent signature portion as well. And if your parent had an FSA ID, they will also sign the same way, providing their credentials and clicking signing this FAFSA. However, if they did not create an FSA ID, they have the ability to print a signature page, which you will do to confirm that your FAFSA has been submitted. And you will then, once you print that page, you will go to submit without signatures. Make sure that once you get that printed signature page that you send it to the office, and that address is on the signature page. And it is really important to send it immediately, if not the same day, then the next day, because it does take approximately 10 business days to process. And we want to make sure that the schools and the student aid office gets it as soon as possible. So although the electronic submission is faster and is preferred because you get immediate results, the printed page works just as well and will make sure that the FAFSA is submitted. So once you submit the FAFSA, or once you provide the student signatures, there will be a little button that will show up next to previous that says submit my FAFSA. And because this is an example FAFSA, there is no submit button. So what's next? So now that we submitted, yay, it's done. What's next? So we have the student aid report, and I don't have a real student aid report to show you. So this here is an example of a scholar. And so it basically summarizes all of the information that you provided on the FAFSA. And it will give you your EFC, which is your estimated family contribution. So basically, FAFSA determines, after your family has paid the bills, has fed your family, how much money do you have left over to contribute to your child's education. And so that EFC is up at the very top, right under that federal student aid FAFSA in green. It's that little box. You can kind of see what the EFC is. The student aid report, or often referred to as the SAR, also gives you a estimation of how much Pell grant money or loans your family can qualify for based on your EFC. So if this process confuses you, send your SAR to your college counselor so that they can kind of walk you through what that looks like. And a lot of questions that we always get is, when can I view it? When can I get it? This is so important. And you actually get it immediately once you complete and submit your FAFSA. You'll get kind of like a basic summary in your email, but you will get your actual full SAR report about 3 days after you submit your FAFSA. So be on that lookout for that every day after you submit the FAFSA. And that's why it's so important to submit an email that you're actually going to use. The next process that we're going to talk about is the verification process, because you're going to hear this term so often, especially within Uplift RTCC. So what is it? Basically, verification means that certain universities will ask you to confirm the information that you submitted in the FAFSA. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It just means that they want to verify the information. And so each verification process will look different for each of the schools that your scholar applied to. And it's very, very important to stay on top of your student portals and your emails so that you can see what verification documents those individual colleges will ask you to complete. And so what verification you'll do for one school, like UNT, like the school that I put on Maria's list, will be different than what UTA will ask for. One of the best ways to get ahead of the verification process and make sure that you are prepared is to order a tax transcript, which basically summarizes the information on the tax return and includes like the adjusted gross income, and it just condenses what your tax information says. So you've already done it. It's really just ordering it. And you can do that by going to the irs.gov website and search for tax transcript. It'll come right up, and you can request online or by mail. We recommend by mail, so please request it by mail. You'll receive it in about 10 business days. And so once you receive it in the mail, let your college counselor know so that they can best prepare you and your family for the verification process. And that's it. That is the completion of the FAFSA. I know this was a lot of information, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time. And if you have any additional questions, contact your Road to College counselors on your individual campus. We're here to best support your families through this very confusing process. Special thanks to these incredible people from Summit who helped put this information together so that I could share it with you guys. Thank you again, and I hope to see you guys soon.